making sure you hit your mic.
Yes. I was waiting. Okay, that's right. We're on Teams, so we don't have any recording in progress notification. Is recording in progress? Oh, okay, good. So I'll call this the meeting of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee to order. And we're missing one person. Haven't heard anything from Tom. Did you get a note from him? Well, we still have enough for quorum, so we'll move on. Approval of the minutes from the October 10th meeting. Got a motion from Supervisor Bjork. Second from Supervisor Vogel. Any changes or comments on it? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. And no opposed. Any public comment? Nothing submitted? No public here except for the us people. So so we'll move on to extension staff report, and it's really weird having to turn around and I see that Kristen is joining us remotely. So let's hear from Kristen.
Hi, thank you. Sorry about the remoteness. I meant to be there in person. We had final interviews today in Chippewa County for our 4-H educator position. And so we had 2 candidates that came forward pretty highly, and I still have not made a decision on looking at references and different things. So we're going to be rounding out the 4-H team here for the area shortly, I hope. What the significance for Dunn County is there's a lot of cross programming that happens. And so having a full team across the 3 counties will help to bolster and bring new opportunities to the youth in Dunn County, so in youth and volunteers. So we're really excited to bring on a new team member in that county. Also, in Eau Claire County, we hired a health and well-being educator. And that is a new position within our area. So really excited to bring that forward. So there will be some benefits of that position in Dunn County as well, because we do work across the counties. So we'll have that program presence. Right now we do have FoodWise in that institute, and now we'll have what's called behavioral health. And so really excited to start working with the health departments and other areas that are related to health and well-being and behavioral health. And that position starts the end of the month. So pretty excited about that as well. So, but as far as movement in Dunn County, thankfully, knocking on wood, and you better glare at the people behind you, we do not have any openings. And so full staff doing some great work. And working really well, coming together more cohesively as an office. We've been a newer staff, so it's turning out to be a really, really good environment, and great people that are working in the office and doing some really good programming. So really happy about that office. It's like one of my least problems, right? So they're great to work with.
Dunn County is just awesome. That's why.
What's that?
Dunn County is just awesome. That's why.
I know, it really is. So I will agree. So the only other update I have is financially doing great. We're right on target with the budget. And if you do have ideas or hear constituent ideas for programming, please bring those forward. That is something that I'd like to engage with you all a little bit more on, and especially with the needs that you see coming from your areas as well. So please don't hesitate to bring those forward, or set up a meeting, or give me a call. I appreciate that. So other than that, unless you have questions, I really don't have anything to add at this point.
Does anybody have any questions for Supervisor Bjork does.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Well, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to put a shout out for the good job that Dunn County kids did on Wax Radio, and it was Rock Falls Rockets, and the young ladies show horses and dogs and cats, and great representation of Dunn County. And even though it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I think a lot of people here.
That's fantastic. I can't believe you have youth up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but okay.
You don't
So-
have to be up to listen to the radio. Now, I'm an expert on not being up and listening to the radio. You just have to set the time for the radio to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the kids had to be up. And,
Well, they weren't live. I don't know.
oh, okay.
Oh, it was recorded. No, and that's the great work that Zach continues to do. So, you know, certainly Zach's been there just almost a year, almost a year now. So just hit the ground running and doing some great work with the youth and families there in the 4-H community. So it's fantastic to hear. Thanks for that, Larry.
Anybody else have anything for Kristen? If not, thank you. And we'll move on. We have educator updates in your packet. And I don't know if anybody had any comments or questions about some of those updates that were included. And Tom, welcome to the committee. You actually weren't as late as you thought because I got in here late because I was behind a school bus. But I'm blaming it on Zach because he had to use the restroom. So he didn't miss too much. If there are no questions about the educator updates, we're going to move on to our educator presentation, and we're going to hear from our FoodWise educators.
Good evening, everyone. We're really happy to be here this evening. So I'm Sandy Tarter, FoodWise coordinator. On the line on the screen, you can see Joy and Jael coming to us from Eau Claire and Hillary coming from Chippewa. So I am, there we go, working to bring this up, a little delay. So let's see here. One moment, just making sure technology is working with me here. No, can I? So if I, wait, come back. All right, so why is it not forwarding? Let me just, it's not showing up there. What's it go from there?
I might be able to do it from here. I can do it from here.
Oh, yeah, we're good. So you're gonna do it from here, unless it's a delay. It could be a delay in my computer.
You let me know when you switch.
You go for it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Awesome. So here's our team, as you well know. Everybody's up on screen there. We'll go forward. So what do we teach? We're just going to quick overview. I'm going to start with my plate. As you can see here, very simple but effective visual that we use with our program participants. And easy in theory, difficult in reality, right? When we think about consistently day to day, can we follow this my plate when we're looking at decades now, for me, decades of eating habits that we may have based on our culture, our environment, easy access to processed foods, right? Our comfort with cooking. So it's very challenging to even follow this my plate. But we encourage people, half your plate, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, right? Lean proteins, and so forth. Lots of fiber. But it's not really easy. And so we know that people, when they eat one fruit and one vegetable a day, they think they're doing really well. But you know what? We need 5 or 6. We need to really figure out how to incorporate those more. So we also, it reminds me that we cannot do medical nutrition therapy. So if we get pointed questions of, say, interactions and medications and food, or tell us about diabetic meal planning, we cannot touch those subjects. We have to keep it to the dietary guidelines for Americans. Stay there. Don't stay there.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. This is Joy from Eau Claire County, and I'm going to tell you the next thing that we teach about in classrooms and with adults is the importance of physical activity. So we know that 2 out of 3 adults in Wisconsin are overweight or obese, which is not a good statistic. So part of our job is teaching people the importance of physical activity. So we do that from, with our little 4K children all the way up to our elderly adults with our Strong Bodies program. So always talking about ways we can move our body more to get physical activity.
Hello, this is Jael Wolf, and we also teach food resource management. So we teach people how to stretch their food dollars, how planning and budgeting can improve their diet and also reduce their stress. We also teach them ways on how to use their leftovers. We have a really good class that is called Bringing New Life to Leftovers. And we also teach them how to use local resources.
Hi, this is Hillary in Chippewa County. I have to apologize because I'm not seeing the slides advance, and I thought I was going to be talking about stretching our food dollars, and so I'm not sure what our next bullet point is here in Chippewa County.
That's okay, Hillary. So our next one is food preparation and cooking. So whenever possible, we provide taste testing. We provide, in some cases, we do some food prep in certain partners, but mostly we try to do taste testing with our youth and our partners, um, try again. Anyway, so yeah, tasting. So we can go on the next one. Okay, next up, Kids Garden. Joanne, Jael?
Yes, it's just like here we're not seeing the slides change, but now I'll just follow with your cues. So, this past summer we taught Kids Garden. We have a partnership with the Menominee Boys and Girls Club. The next slide, please. So we use the Growing Healthy Kids curriculum, and we have the great support from our extension horticulture educator, Margaret Murphy. So we work with her in teaching these classes. And in our classes, we teach how to grow, harvest, learn, taste, and play. We know that if kids grow and harvest their food, is more likely they're going to try it. So we're just teaching them how fun it is to eat healthy by growing their own food. And something that is really cute that I always ask kids at the end of our taste if they liked something by showing me their thumb. So give me thumbs up if you like it, sideways was okay, and thumbs down if they didn't like it. And we tried spaghetti squash one day, and the kids loved it because it smelled like French fries. And one of the kids told me, like, I'm not going to give you 1 or 2 thumbs ups. I'm going to give you 4 thumbs up. And I was like, buddy, but you just have 2 hands. And he was like, well, I'm wearing flip-flops. So I'm also giving you thumbs up with my big toes. So that was really cute. And we also have a quote from one that Joy is going to share with us.
So at the end of every program, we do different evaluations like teacher surveys or parent surveys. And so this survey comment came from Maddie, who is this center director at the Boys and Girls Club this past summer. She said, some members struggle with the idea of trying new foods, especially when it's considered healthy. The way the food was portrayed and explained would excite most of our members, and then they would get excited to try a variety of foods when we were not there. So that was pretty cool. And I've got the next slide, preschool. So we have the opportunity to teach at Menominee Head Start, and we've been over there for years. And so we've got some nice teacher connections, and they have, I believe it's a total of 6 classrooms or 5, but 3 of those are the 4K classrooms. And so I got the opportunity to go there in October this year, and I taught Color Me Healthy curriculum 4 lessons. So it's like a 4-week series. And we get to talk about the importance of fruits and veggies, the colors of the rainbow with fruits and vegetables. We do a really fun hand washing activity with a stuffed animal and pretend germs and a glow light, and the kids love it. And then we talk about physical activity and how we can move our body. Then we also bring tastes of fruits and vegetables each week. And one of the tastes was jicama. And the kids they really kind of went nuts over the jicama. Oh, and then the blackberries too. They love those at the end of the lessons.
So we are teaching River Heights. Next slide, please. So we teach first, third, and fifth grade. So we have 3 different curricula for these grades. Read for health for first grade, serving up my plate for third, and show me nutrition for fifth grade.
And this is a 6-lesson series as well. So we're coming over for the next 5 weeks on Wednesdays in Menominee. So you might see us around town. And then we're able to have lunch with Sandy when we come over. So that's kind of nice. And again, we teach those My Plate key messages. We bring fruit and vegetable tastes, also like whole grains, protein food tastes, and even the dairy group. And then we always make sure that we have games incorporated in our lessons and hands-on activities.
Okay, so I'm going to chat about stepping stones a little bit. I always check in with Chris and really try to support her in what she needs there at the food pantry. Most recently, she said, Sandy, can you help me with some marketing and printing posters, laminating, so we can have directionals and so forth. So when I was chatting with her, I did ask about the culturally relevant foods. We started that program last year just to see how it's going. She said definitely they keep buying and filling those shelves with Hispanic or Asian typically related foods. And they also this summer they bought directly from one of our Hmong vendors at the farmers market. So that was really nice that we could get some specific foods there. And then they are having up to about 1,200 per month at the Stepping Stones Food Pantry. They do go around to they have 6 pop-up pantries, mobile units that they go around the county. And so they go to Elk Mound, let's see, Rock Falls, Downsville, Colfax, and north to Sand Creek and Ridgeland, and they get about 300 families that come to those.
So we also teach in shelters, transition homes.
And when we're there, we try to teach a curriculum that's called Healthy Sense, which is a really nice curriculum that teaches folks how to stretch their food dollars, meal planning and budgeting, how to make healthy snacks on a budget, and choose healthy beverages. And then we also talk about using your local resources, whatever, if we happen to be in Dunn County or Eau Claire County too.
So this past summer, we partnered with the Bridge to Hope, and we were able to teach 2 out of the 4 lessons that we are supposed to teach. So this was kind of like challenging. We couldn't finish our series of lessons. So we're just going to revisit this partnership, and we're going to try to see how we can meet their needs, while we're also using the curricula that we have to use to teach in these kind of programs and events.
I think this was a little bit challenging because it was with the residents that are in-house there, and as you know, they're coming from chaos and trauma, and so sometimes we had partner or participants that might run out crying because something triggered them, so it's a bit of a challenge. And they do have a pantry there, so they like us to help utilize those foods and teaching the residents how to cook with those foods. And we're going to try and see if we can they have a support group of families that have gone through the shelter who are now living on their own. They come back as a support group, and that we think might be a better fit just to help them once they are in their homes and shopping and cooking again. So I continue to support the farmers market. Their new news this last maybe a week ago was that they're basically going to set themselves up as their own nonprofit organization and separate from WestCap, transitioning over 2024. WestCap will continue to be a fiscal agent, but then the Menominee Farmers Market will be their own entity from then on. So that's going to be open up to a few opportunities in their growth. They then can obviously make their own decisions. If they want, they could use debit credit tokens, which in the past we've only done food share tokens. And according to Veronica, she said that'll help with vendor involvement, management decision-making, transparency and market strategies, financial decisions, simplified payments with on market tokens, membership fees, easy communication, and so on and so forth. And so she will be the executive director now, and there will be a board that will come to pass with both paid and volunteer positions on it. So I will continue to support them as needed. I am involved in the statewide is in Wisconsin, Foodwise is submitting a Gus NIP grant. That's federally funded grant. Gus is short for Gus Schumacher. NIP, NIP is Nutrition Incentive Program. So I'm talking to them. I'm going down Madison on Thursday. So to learn more about this, they're asking if our farmers markets in our Chippewa Valley area who are now doing EBT market match wanted to come under that grant. That grant would help do the market match fund for fruits and vegetable purchases only. So we know we have been giving food share eligible foods like also breads and meats and eggs the match. So we got to work out and see do we want to get this federal funding, which is always awesome. Do we want to change our system of how we do that? So we're going to be talking through these things in this next coming winter months. And then health coalitions. So I'm very involved in the current chronic disease prevention action team. As you know, the community health needs assessment was just recently completed. Now we don't have all of the results and conversations around those, but most immediately what has bubbled up are the top 5 community conditions. So if you remember, you've done this survey, there's about 25 community conditions, issues that people could pick. What is your top 5 concern? And of these concerns, 3 of the questions or the conditions on there were poor nutrition, unhealthy food, or lack of physical activity, or healthy food is not affordable. And so for the first time in my memory, 15, 20 years, that something related to food, nutrition, obesity, chronic disease did not bubble up to the top 5. The top 5 were housing, mental health, environmental health, alcohol and drug misuse, and lack of daycare or childcare. So I don't know if that is going to have an impact on our chronic disease prevention action team, but we'll see. We'll continue doing our work until we have any changes. In November, it's Diabetes Awareness Month, where we're putting out notices again about the prediabetes risk assessment. And with some ARPA funding coming to the coalition and our action team, we are planning this family resource fair in Dance. It'll be held April 18th. It's going to be right down here in this location. We were going to have it at Historical Society and for various reasons decided to host it here. We have Jim Gill, who is an entertainer, family entertainer coming in. He sings silly songs and it gets families up and dancing, and we'll combine that with a resource fair during and before that dance. So that's all in the works. And professional development.
All right. So we all continue to engage in professional development of many types, including curriculum training, classroom management training, strategic planning, and community engagement. So for instance, Jael and I just headed over to Medford for a day where we met with fellow nutrition educators. We each prepared our own lesson as if we were going to teach a 1st or 5th grade class, and gave that lesson to our peers so that we could have some good feedback and critique each other and just really learn from each other. What's working for others? What do we think we could implement in ourselves and in our lessons? So professional development is ongoing for all of us.
All right, and so upcoming partners and potential programming is listed here. We always support the Strong Bodies, which you know, Joy and Jael did many nutrition chats last spring. They do it when they can. In the summer, they're busy doing Boys and Girls Clubs, so they couldn't do it. I lead some of those classes as well, so we'll continue to support that. I've spoken with our local workforce resource, FSET Food Share Employment Training coordinator. She coordinates all 3 counties in the Chippewa Valley, and so we're going to try to get something set up for that. They prefer online and have seen better participation online, and so FSET participants are required to do some training and resume building, right? Interviewing skills, and so our classes can help them to gain those requirement hours. So we'll work on that. I've connected with Feed My People. So Tammy Syverson there kind of reached out to Kristen and say they'd like to think about doing more education at Feed My People Food Bank in Eau Claire, who of course supplies all of the food pantries in our Chippewa Valley. So we'll think about how we can partner with them. We have Building Bridges is our after school program with mostly Hmong participants in our middle schools. That's both Dunn and Eau Claire counties. And so we usually do 2 series with them depending on what they need. We'll work on getting that planned out. And then WIC, of course, we'll invite any WIC participants in Dunn County to join virtual lessons with Chippewa if we can, when we get those parent meetings going. And then I'll work with Grace here in Dunn County to see what she may need in the future. And so we'll keep that partnership going. All right, thanks. This is a picture from our Golden Awards. Every year we have our end of the year kind of a celebration. Jael did receive the upcoming Newcomer Educator Award last year, but any questions from you all?
Any questions for Sandy or the team? Supervisor Bjork?
Sandy, every year I have to ask you about this time, about what's happening with the Farm Bill and you guys are federal and how shutdown might affect you.
Yes, so in the past, when this has happened, and it has happened before, where the Farm Bill has not been decided upon, yet we're starting October 1, right? We've been given the word to keep programming as is. In the past, food-wise, if they had carryover funds, kept us going, and Extension supported us, and they're telling us to keep going until that all gets ironed out. My understanding is, maybe around the holidays they might decide. We'll see. You never know. But thankfully, Extension has always really been supportive, and they will keep our programming going, as from what we understand.
So as far as you know, if they just extend the current Farm Bill for another year, you guys are up and running with. I mean, there isn't any big. I mean, what isn't the Farm Bill like 90% dollars for nutrition? So, you think it's all ag.
Well, I don't know the percentage that SNAP Ed has in the Farm Bill. SNAP Ed, which we are the education component, is just a tiny part of the SNAP. I don't know what that percentage is of the whole Farm Bill.
Well, it's way, way up there, which is fine with me. I don't care. It's just, that's, and then my last thing, I've been hearing about stepping stones and their pop-up pantries. And you mentioned it just in passing as far as the affordability of good food. And also been reading where families have been receiving payments of maybe upwards of $600 a month has been cut back to about half. I mean, people that need the help are getting less and less help, and food is higher and higher in price.
Yeah, very true. So those added food share payments did stop from the pandemic. They stopped in February. They continued the summer. Some of the pandemic EBT, which went to families who had registered for reduced lunch participation rate in schools, they got a little bit this summer. Now all that has stopped. So we know we're going to see increase in demand on food pantries. Yeah, for sure. And Chris told me she saw that. She's already seen it starting to creep up and up and up. Right.
Bad situation to be in.
It truly is. So to support those, yeah, to keep those pop-ups going, to get in the remote areas of the county is great. And our chronic disease prevention action team, we're talking about supporting with an online food drive. And I know now there's a food drive going on, of course, for the holidays. They're typically well supported over the holidays. When it gets to be January, February is kind of the crunch time when they get really low in their supplies. And so we think maybe we'll support an online food drive, because every dollar we donate, they can buy $10 worth of food from the food bank. So we'll try to help them out in that respect as well.
I appreciate your work.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I thought it was really interesting. Sorry, I'm trying to talk to you and be mic'd at the same time. I thought it was super interesting what you brought up about the community needs health assessment and how it's sort of shifting away from overweight and obesity being a primary concern and in favor of these more contributing factors. What's really interesting about that to me is, so I follow a lot of activists online from the overweight and obese community who are trying to shift the language about how people discuss that focusing on weight and like the body is too stigmatizing, right? And that it makes more sense to focus like, well, if we're concerned about promoting healthy eating, let's talk about healthy eating and let's talk about moving more and focus on the individual things, and diabetes, like let's focus on those things rather than weight. So anyway, you mentioned that the community needs health assessment seems to be shifting that way. And so I saw that connection and I thought it was really interesting.
Right. In health, there's many definitions of health. And I think it's the health of a person. Obviously, we don't focus on weight in our programming. We don't touch it because everybody's healthy in, varying degrees depending on their activity level, so that's really true.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? If not, thank you, Sandy, and thank you, team, for your report.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
We appreciate you all's time and attention.
All right, we'll move on our agenda. Economic development update. I'm gonna throw it to Chris and get her to drop her phone.
Sorry.
Probably doing a Facebook update, I guess.
I was commenting about the meeting. Um,
Awesome.
live tweeting. Yeah, live tweeting the meeting.
Yeah.
If I only knew how. Okay, economic development. So plans continue to potentially create a shared position between the GMDC, the DCEDC, and the Stout Tech Park, housed at UW Stout, and a combination of funding with Stout providing the benefit package. So the hope would be that we would be able to eliminate between the county's contribution to the Dunn County EDC and the city's contribution to the Dunn County EDC and the GMDC, and then the money that the city puts into the Stout Tech Park, the hope would be that we would be able to have a sustainable salary so the person would still do fundraising, but their livelihood didn't depend on their fundraising. And so apparently the model that we're continuing to try to work through is really not known in Wisconsin. Like almost everybody pretty much has to be self-supporting, like they have to fundraise to support their position, and there almost always are not benefits attached to that. So we hope that if all is successful, it would create a sustainable position and be attractive to someone who might have some experience in the world of economic development. So we have a meeting again, I believe next week, soon here anyway, that a couple of people are working on a potential model for what it might look like. The general gist of it being that the president of the GMDC, the president of the Dunn County EDC, and the president of the Stout Tech Park would become a 3-person sort of oversight to that position. And then from which that's who that person would report to. And then kind of work on coordinating the needs of all those organizations. It's probably more than one person's work, but to start with, we think that there's a lot of relationship building that needs to happen, and so that's where the person would likely start. The hope would be that we could be doing that by early in 2024.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah, that sounds encouraging. Anybody have any comments for Chris?
I'll just talk this way and see you over
Good deal.
Um, Getting involved with Stout, I think, is a good idea. And I've always wondered, people that work in economic development, are there degrees in economic development and advanced degrees? And I mean, is there somebody out there that's I mean, one of the speakers that we heard down at the legislative conference last year in Milwaukee, the very last one that spoke, and it had to do with problem solving and different things. And I thought the slide that they presented was outstanding, or the program. And one was, I think, the president was in Eau Claire. I said, who teaches this? Is this taught on the university level? So I keep thinking, how does a person get to be a big mucky muck of intelligence in economic development?
So I think there's probably a number of tracks that people take to get to economic development. So simply, I mean, on the simplest sense, one of the most currently successful economic development directors in the region is Representative Armstrong from Barron, his day job is being a legislator, and he does economic development as well part-time for Barron, and is very successful at it. And so I think a lot of it's about the connections that you make, and kind of you having that innate sense of that personality, that there's a part of sales that go with that. But I would say most people probably come to economic development either through some type of a business background, or like a planning. I think a lot of economic development people in larger areas probably come with like an urban planning, or that kind of a background where they're interested in how communities come together.
Yeah, I don't know Dave's background or like Charlie Walker's background either,
don't
for that
either.
matter. I'm gonna have to ask him. We'll report back where they came from. So, anything else for Chris on economic development?
I was just going to say one other thing. The other thing that happened is we reconvened last week. It's early in the week. Last week, our Economic Development Summit group, our key stakeholder group from Dunn County, who had met in May and June, and then September, I believe, early September, and we came together again. And that group as well continues to have some really nice momentum. It has 3 subgroups. It has a workforce housing subgroup. It has a business retention and expansion subgroup, and then an entrepreneurship and small business development group. And so there's a lot of movement with that. And then out of that, we're contemplating maybe kind of our goal for 2020, early 2024, or kind of maybe late winter 2024, would be actually to bring all of the boards that all of those people work with and represent, or work with, and that represent the area that they practice in, bring all the boards together and have a larger group conversation about just kind of what are the potential and what are the obstacles in our community to continuing to expand economic development and workforce housing, and workforce attraction, and all of those sorts of things. So that would be super exciting too, kind of to do our own little local version, not little, but our own local version of our own kind of what's the latest and the greatest. Not everyone a lot of times boards are comprised of people who are either doing it as a part of another job, or they're not compensated. So if we can create an avenue where people can have some exposure to what some of the latest and greatest things are in the world of economic development without having to go too terribly far, and being able to do that here locally, and using both some local talent or someone that we might be able to coerce for little or no cost. Our hope is to try to pull that off early in the next year.
Excellent. So we'll just slide right into communications.
Yeah, I have nothing really new to report. I mean, I can see that has definitely found its own rhythm. I think that as the year has gone on and we've come up with topics that we wanted to promote, but we also come up with, and it's a spontaneous or things that come up at kind of the last minute, and Doug is responsive to both. So I'm trying to think what the last thing was where I was like, can you do a press release on this? It was like the next day. And so he's just so good at drafting those and on the fly. So, but I know he's working on one right now on announcement for the plan to update our comprehensive plan. He just did one on the large grant that the family treatment court received. So yeah, he continues to put out, I'd say between 3 and 5 releases or articles a month.
Excellent. Anybody have anything for Chris on communication? If not, we'll move on to broadband discussion. And I see that Dan distributed this fabulous map,
Yeah,
and he's going to tell us why he did that.
yeah. So I just wanted to kind of give an update. The latest round of state grants, it's a capital improvement grant, were due the end of last week. We had 5 submissions by providers for areas within Dunn County that were submitted as part of that, and we have, as a county, supported them both in writing and in money. So, and that's just using the same funds that had been previously allocated. All of these requests are for areas that had previously been requested. The map itself is very colorful, but this is actually directly from the Public Service Commission state broadband map covering Dunn County. And so what I wanted to kind of demonstrate with this is all of the areas that are colored in, so kind of not in that dark gray black color. You'll see that like right around the city of Menominee. Those are areas that have not been awarded some sort of state or federal money for broadband. So you'll see that around all of the villages and cities in Dunn County have not received any funding because for the most part they are not eligible for that funding. And the rest of the areas have really been covered. There are some areas, so if you look in the area around Downsville, that's not covered, but that's also the home territory of West Wisconsin Telecom 24/7. So that is covered. So the areas that had applied for grants in this latest round is, if you look over on the west side of the county, over by Knapp, so just north of 94 in the town of Lucas, that dark gray area there was a application for that area. In addition to that, there was a request or an application for the village of Knapp. So that's really just the village itself, village proper. The other requests were the town of Grant, which is, there's a map behind me if you really want to look at that, but it is just north of Village of Colfax on the eastern edge of the county. So that would be just north of Colfax, and then that grant actually does kind of drop down into some of northwest corner of the town of Colfax. Also in that northwest corner of the town of Colfax, there is a second grant. So two providers had kind of worked together to identify the best way to cover that northwest corner. So they've worked together in order to cover that. So in this map, yeah, that's going to be just to the left of where it says Colfax. So it would not include the village of Colfax, but just the town. So it's really just outside of the town there. So that's two more. Then there was a request for the town of Colfax on that southern border. So just below where all that blue, those blue lines are. And that has been, so that was another request by yet a third provider. So the village of Colfax is actually, or the town of Colfax is actually three separate providers that are kind of living in that area over there. So see if I get all my awards here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. That is all of the awards that had been requested in Dunn County for this particular round. So if you really look through that, and so there's some areas they kind of changed the way they did the maps, and some of it is how providers had applied for the maps. So if you look in the northwest corner, all of the yellow lines over there, that was a grant that was just awarded this summer. That really covers that whole area. They just happened to draw a line down every one of the roads that they were going to go in, as opposed to just putting a big red square covering the entire area that's covered. So not that we expect it to happen, but if those 5 grants were all awarded, we have a lot of Dunn County ends up getting covered. So one of the main areas that we continue to look at is just directly north of Menominee, so town of Sherman and town of Hay River, which is kind of in the center. You'll see there's go with like a light blue purplish color right in the middle there that says a charter. That is an area that has been awarded to charter for what they refer to as RDOF funding. So that does not necessarily mean that charter is going to cover that whole area, but it means that they have been awarded money to do so. And where that's important is because they have been given federal money to do that, they are not eligible for most of the grants in that area. So, and it does kind of break up where the providers are. So those are some of the areas that we're looking to get at and get covered. But just wanted to give you an update of kind of where those difficult spots are and where those spots are that aren't covered, and also something to be aware of as you speak to people in the county or people you represent. Just because they're covered in red doesn't mean they have it now. A lot of these awards were made like this year or last year, and the work is in progress, and we don't necessarily expect them to be done. A lot of it is actually getting done right around now, where they're actually connecting houses, but you may see it happen into next year. But we, for the most part, consider them as being complete. Well, the money is out there, and we expect it to be done based on the history of the providers and what they've done. So just wanted to provide that summary in case anybody was curious as these grants go out, and they are expecting the awards Marchish timeframe to know whether those grants are approved.
And the problem is with those awards too, is that you, you can apply for those grants. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna get them. And some of them, like you mentioned, are ones that they had applied for before and are applying for again. And I sometimes wonder if it sometimes hurts Dunn County in that Dunn County has gotten a fair number of awards. And so they might be saying it's time to spread the wealth or something like that.
Hopefully not, but yeah. Uh, And it's not really just even Dunn County, but the providers that are applying for these have done good, not just in Dunn County, but in general in these programs. So we are lucky in that regard. I don't know if I've mentioned it here or not, but we have 5 or 6 providers that are covering Dunn County, and that is not the same problem that other counties are seeing.
No, and one of the things too is that I was talking with Randy from West Wisconsin Telecom. And he said that actually his house is at the end of a road that actually goes into another covered area, but it wouldn't make any sense for them to go all the way down to just get his house. And so they did some household swaps so that he would be covered on the end of a line that was already coming down that road anyway.
Yeah. And I think that was some of the work that the 2 providers did in that northwest corner of Colfax is what's the most efficient way to cover this corner or cost effective way for both providers. So
Supervisor Vogel.
Thank you. I'm just curious on this map with the dark gray, like little small blocks throughout the county. Are those actually like households that don't have access, or is it just an area that doesn't have access? But
just you mean like the little islands within
right.
some of the coverage areas,
Mhm.
and not counting the lakes.
Right.
I assume that those are just large parcels that are maybe purely wooded or something to that effect that the providers have not considered to be serviceable. So they technically would be an area that is not served, but
There's nothing to serve.
I would assume there's nothing to serve. Yeah. Yeah, that like, so if you look in the southern part where it's kind of that, we'll go with brownish color, right? That's 24/7 telecoms areas, ACAP 2 funding, which was just, but that is their traditional service area as they were a telephone provider in that area. So they've just expanded their coverage with fiber connectivity over that. And the same with Mosaic in the northern part of the county.
Anything else for Dan? And of course, we're still putting together our task force membership. And one of the areas that if you guys can think of somebody who is in some area of healthcare, we'd like to have a healthcare provider, somebody in healthcare in some sort of fashion. Doesn't have to be like, you know, like an administrator could even be a nurse or something like that, but just someone representing the healthcare industry would be somebody we'd like to have on the task force. Nothing else? Thanks, Dan. For Dunn County Tourism, only thing I have to report is just that I was going to bring a traffic, showing some of the traffic to the website, and I didn't print that out before I left my house. So the website's just seeing a little bit more traffic. It always is good to continue to spread the word about it. I think the press release help give it a little bit of a bump in some traffic. So that's good. So I'm hoping that it, especially as people start to do some more traveling in either the winter sports time or come summer, that'll get some more traffic. Anybody have any comments on tourism? Then we really don't have any actions to consider except for our next proposed meeting date is Tuesday, December 12th. And if nobody has any issues with that, if there are any announcements anybody would like to make? Quiet group. Except for Larry, who has to cough way over there. Yes, there is a county board meeting tonight. With that then, our meeting is adjourned.